Hello, everyone. Welcome to Barca News. It is May 22nd, 2023, and Barcelona could double their wage limit this summer transfer market. Also, the club do have a backup plan or an emergency plan in case they cannot cover the deficit created by Libero. And finally, Hansi Flick will push for a move to Barcelona. We have a lot to discuss. So let's begin. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Mo and this is the Barca News live podcast, which is on every Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where not only do I get to share Barcelona news with you, but I also get to interact with you lovely people in the chat section by reading your comments out loud, answering your questions, and getting a discussion going. For those of you who will be watching the live stream when it ends, I will be leaving timestamps in the description and chapters in the timeline in case you do want to skip through the discussion, if you're not a fan of it and you just want to get straight to the news. Anyways, having said all of that, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment. All this helps the channel continue to grow. If you are looking to buy any Barcelona jerseys or merchandise like this t-shirt that I'm wearing, make sure you hit the kit bag. The link is in the description. If you click on it, you get some pretty cool offers and specials. And if you do want to play sports bets, if you're feeling lucky, not just in regards to Barcelona matches, but any sporting event, we have the Women's Champions League coming up. We have the Men's Champions League coming up. So if you're feeling lucky, make sure you hit the kit bag. If you use the link I have in the description, you also get a special offer. I think you get a free $100 to bet on teams. Anyways, having said all that, let's dive right into the news because there's a lot of news to discuss with you today. Starting with that Barcelona could double their wage limit this summer, which would allow them to register all the pending contracts that they have yet to register. Now, we know that Barcelona have a big deficit in their budget. That deficit is a result of the failed operation of the sale of Barca Vision, or a portion of Barca Vision, to the German investment fund Libero, who failed to pay the 40 million euros they owed Barcelona in December. They're supposed to pay another 60 million euros this 15th of June, which of course Barcelona expect Libero to default on that payment. So Barcelona will have a 100 million euro deficit in their current budget, this financial budget, which ends on June 30th. Now, Barcelona expect to cover this budget by two ways. The number one way is through the Nike deal. As you know, Barcelona are currently renegotiating the contract with Nike, where Nike are expected to pay a 100 million euro signing bonus. So that's one way that Barcelona could cover the budget deficit. And the other way is by finding a new investor to buy the portion of Barca Vision that was initially sold to Libero. Now, if Barcelona get the 100 million euros from Nike, which is looking like that's going to happen way before the second option, which is to get a new investor to buy the portion of Barca Vision, then Barcelona would cover their deficit, and with that, they would reach the 1-to-1 rule, which would allow them to sign players freely. Because as you know, right now, Barcelona are not under the 1-to-1 rule. Barcelona are now under, I think it's like the 60% rule, where, if you sell a player, you can only use 60% of what you sold them for to sign new players. But under the 1-to-1 rule, every euro that you make off a sale, you can use it to sign players, which makes things a lot easier for Barcelona. Now, not only that, and this is where the new news comes in, not only would Barcelona be able to go back to the 1-to-1 rule and sign players freely if they cover that 100 million euro budget deficit, but also their wage limit would go up to 530 million euros. So that would be almost double, because right now Barcelona's wage limit sits around 270, which Barcelona are way above it. But if they get those 100 million from Nike or from a new investor that buys Barca Vision, Barcelona not only would go back to the 1-to-1 rule, their wage limit could also jump up to 530 million euros. And this is huge news, Because as you know, Barcelona have a lot of pending contract registrations. Barcelona still have to register Gavi because Gavi right now is only registered under a court order. That court order gets removed, gets reversed, his registration is out the window and he's no longer a first team player. He cannot play with the first team anymore because there's a rule that says when you get promoted to the first team, you can only, after a certain time with the first team, you cannot go back down. So it would be over for Gavi. There's also Alejandro Balde, who Barcelona renewed his contract, but they are yet to register the renewal. There's Inigo Martinez, who signed for 2 years, but Barcelona only registered 1 year of that contract. There is Vitor Roque, who was registered during this second half of the season, but only under the rule that allows Barcelona to register another player when a player gets injured. So we know Balde and Gavi both got injured for the rest of the season. So Barcelona used the salary space that those two players have to register Vitor Roque. But of course, in the summer, they're both going to be back on the books. So Vitor Roque is going to have to be registered. So there's a lot of pending registrations. And if Barcelona can reach the 1-to-1 rule, their wage limit would jump up to 530 million euros. And it would be able to register all those players without any problems. And of course, they would be able to register any players they sign. They're not going to have to be, every time they sign a player, be counting pennies, be breathing, like, oh my God, are we going to be able to register this player or not? Just like it's been every single transfer market. Now, there are a few more things that Barcelona would have to worry about. For example, if you might recall this, but last summer, Barcelona was not able to register all the players. So Jan Laporta and Olivier had to put money out of their own pocket. They had to put a bond in order to register those players. Laporta, in fact, actually put his house as a bond, his house up as a bond in order to register not only the players, but Xavi's contract renewal. Laporta put up his house in order to be able to register. So Barcelona have to make up those 12 million euros that Laporta and Olivier put out of their own pocket. Otherwise, they lose that money and Laporta can end up losing his house. And there's, of course, the issue if Xavi is fired, Barcelona would have to also cover that. Of course, as I reported before, it seems that Xavi would be willing to forgive his salary, but he would still want his staff to get paid. Now, it's reported that it would be around 50 million euros that Barcelona would have to pay Xavi and his staff if he's fired. But if Xavi forgives his salary, which is around 7-8 million euros, that means Barcelona would only have to pay around 7-6 million euros to the staff, which is what Xavi would want because, of course, his staff are not as financially healthy or blessed or whatever you want to call it as he is. But anyways, that's the news. If Barcelona can cover that deficit that Libero left, not only would they reach the 1-to-1 rule, but their wage limit would jump to 530 million euros, which would allow them to register all the pending contracts and, of course, to sign players and be able to register those players without a problem. All right, let's start with the chat section, and then we will talk about the emergency plan that Barcelona have in place in case they cannot cover the deficit, because that's also important. Clubs as big as Barcelona, companies as big as Barcelona always have to have backup plans, because sometimes you can plan for something and life says, haha, F you, and something else happens. So you always have to have a backup for the backup, for the backup, for the backup, for the backup. Anyways. All right, Java the Hut says, do you think Laporta creating all this drama, not talking to the press about Xavi's situation, wanting to look for a new coach before firing Xavi, is a way to try to get Xavi instead of compensation? I don't think I understand your question. What do you mean to try to get Xavi instead of compensation? As in he's creating that drama so he doesn't have to compensate Xavi? I don't know if that's your question. If you can clarify, let me know. I'll be happy to read your clarification. And Barca Forever says, Laporta must be decisive. Say goodbye to Xavi and get Flick. I also must say that these socios are toxic, and so are some of these Barca fans that go and whistle at the stadium. I don't think they're toxic. They're allowed to express themselves if they don't like how the club is being managed, if they don't like how the team is being managed, if they don't like how the players are performing. They're more than free to give their opinion. I think we need to start deviating from this new narrative where if you don't agree with something, you're automatically a toxic person, or you're automatically a hater. Hey, I don't like this car. Oh, you're toxic. No, I just don't like it. It's just not my taste. Oh, I don't like this plate of food. Oh, it's because you're toxic. No, I just don't like it. I have different preferences. We need to stop with that. I think it's a very childish way of thinking and acting to just call anything you disagree with toxic or hater. I think we need to learn to better accept different opinions. And if you want to argue it, go ahead and argue it. But argue it based on valid points versus calling something toxic or hater just because you simply don't agree with it. Which, by the way, happens a lot on this channel. A lot of people come here, they're like, Mo, you're toxic, you're a hater. And I'm like, all right, cool. If that's all you have to say, then I already won an argument because you obviously don't have anything to say back besides that. But anyways, Enoch says, what do you think of Marcelo Gallardo becoming Barca coach next season? I'm not sold at all. I know he did great at River Plate, but then he went to Saudi. I don't think that qualifies him to manage a club as big as Barcelona. I think he had pretty good success in the Argentine league. He shows promise, but I need to see whether he has what it takes to make it in a European team or a big European team, because, you know, we don't want the same thing as Xavi, where Xavi did great in Qatar, by the way. It's not like he was like he did really well in Qatar. And then he came here and completely fell apart, because there's a big difference of coaching a team in Qatar than coaching a team as big as Barca, right? So the same thing. Yeah, he was good with River. I don't know if he was good or not with Ittihad. I don't really know anything about the Saudi league, but let's assume he was good with Ittihad. That doesn't mean anything in a top 5 league and as in a club as big as Barcelona. I would want to see him with European clubs before I would say, yeah, we should bring Gallardo. Sampana says, I'd take Tuchel over Flick because Tuchel has experience. He can speak Spanish. We know what we get with Tuchel. With Flick, we don't know. I'm a little split on Tuchel. I know a lot of people hate him, and they try to make it out to be like, he's absolutely horrible and terrible. I disagree with that assessment. I don't think you get to win the Champions League if you're absolutely horrible and terrible. But I'm split on him because Tuchel's career has been like very, how do I put this? It's been very dichotomous. On one hand, he's had really great success, and on the other hand, he's also had a lot of failures. So I don't know, really. I don't know. It's not like he has been consistently great, but he's also hasn't been consistently bad like a lot of people want to make it out to be. He's been both. So I don't know. Now, Flick has had a very short career, but he has won a sextuple, which, again, only 2 people in the history of football have been able to do that. Flick and Pep. So nothing to take away from him, but he does lack experience. I get it. Trick Chocolat says, not sure if you saw the Europa League final, but Atalanta dominated and Madrid ended up winning the Champions League. The Super Cup will be mint, and my money would be on Atalanta smoking Madrid like a brisket. I did not see the match, but I did see the result. Atalanta won 3-0. I would have liked to see Bayer Leverkusen win. They're doing so well, but either way, I don't really care. I don't care about Bayer Leverkusen. I don't care about Atalanta. But I guess congratulations to them. That's awesome. It would be funny, though, an Atalanta-Dortmund European Super Cup, because that would be definitely an extremely unexpected European Super Cup. Anyways, let's get back to the news, because Barcelona do have a emergency plan in case they cannot cover the deficit of Barca Vision. Now, as I said a few moments ago, Barcelona have a big deficit in their budget this year because Libero failed to pay those 100 million euros that they owe Barcelona for the purchase of Barca Vision. Barcelona hope to cover that budget deficit through the Nike deal by getting that 100 million euro signing bonus, or by getting another investor to buy the portion that Libero was supposed to buy of Barca Vision. However, if Barcelona cannot cover that deficit, they do have a plan. And the plan is to kick the can down the road. Now let me explain or expand on this. Now, as I said a few moments ago, if Barcelona covered the deficit, not only would they reach the 1-to-1 rule, they would also get their wage limit increased to 530 million, which would solve a lot of their problems. They would be able to register the pending contracts that they need to register. And of course, they would be able to register the players that they sign without any problems. So Barcelona need to cover this deficit. Otherwise, they would be in huge financial problems. And forget about the summer transfer market. Barcelona will not be able to sign anyone. They might not even be able to sack Xavi. And they're going to have a hard time registering the contracts of Gabi, Balde, Vitor Roque, etc. So Barcelona need to absolutely cover this deficit. Now, if Barcelona cannot cover this deficit, which they have to do by June 30th, that's when the financial year closes. That's when you have to submit your paperwork to La Liga. And based on that paperwork is when the new wage limits are issued. And that's when you're told whether you're going to be under the 1-1 rule or a different rule. So Barcelona have to cover this deficit by June 30th. If Barcelona fail, absolutely fail, nothing works out. The Nike deal is not closed on time. They can't find an investor for Barca Vision on time. The 100 million euro loan that they're negotiating does not get approved by the banking institution. Then their argument would be that since there's a pending court case, this deficit cannot be fully realized or cannot be counted towards this year. Now, you might ask, what court case am I talking about? As you know, Barcelona sued Libero for not paying what they owed Barcelona. That case is still in court. It's going to be in court for a long time because the wheels of justice turn very, very slowly. So, since there's still a pending case where Barcelona don't know if they're going to recover the full 100 million that Libero owe them, or whether the court going to tell them, sorry, you don't get a single dime, or somewhere in between, then Barcelona's argument to La Liga would be, since there's a pending case, this 100 million euro deficit that we owe, or that's missing from our budget, should be pushed down the road and accounted down the road once this case is resolved. So that's Barcelona's plan. If, again, nothing else works, if they can't close the Nike deal by June 30th, if they cannot get a new investor for Barca Vision by June 30th, and if the 100 million euro banking loan that they're negotiating gets rejected. Now, you might say, well, this is just kicking things down the road, kicking the can down the road. You still have the big problem with the deficit. Sure, that's true. You are just kicking the can down the road. But if, let's say, it gets pushed to the following year's deficit, Barcelona can most likely be able to absorb that, because remember, our stadium is set to open at the end of the season. That's going to generate a lot more funds. Barcelona is going to be in a much better financial situation next year. So if the can does end up kicked down the road to next year, then Barcelona would be in a better financial situation to absorb that loss, versus right now, where if that loss gets absorbed right now, our summer is finished. Forget about it. We're not signing not even a new towel boy or a water boy or a ball boy. The players are going to have to fetch their own balls, because we'll be in deep, deep trouble. Anyways, let's get back to the chat section, and then we will talk about the long-awaited news of Hansi Flick. Okay. Oh, Sapana says, Mo, are there any news on Barca versus Libero? Like I said, no. Cases take years and years in court, especially a case as big as this one. We're talking about 100 million euros on the line. So don't expect any news anytime soon. Maybe in a year, maybe in 2, unless, of course, a settlement is reached. Settlements can always be reached at any point, but cases take years to work their way through courts. Let's see. Manny says, can we sign Hansi Flick for 1 season, then look at our options in the summer of 2025? We could do anything, except they're not going to accept that. No coach in their right mind or player in their right mind is going to be like, yeah, sure, I'll just come for 1 year, and then you can fire me and then bring someone else. No one's going to accept a 1-year contract. It's just impossible. No one will be stupid enough to accept a 1-year contract, because, okay, I have a job for 1 year, and then what? Now I have to be back on the street trying to look for a new job. No one's going to accept that. Let's see. SA says, what's up with Messinho? And Dani Rodriguez seems to stay. So Dani Rodriguez was on his way out. His contract expires this summer. It looked like he was on his way out. He didn't want to renew. He wanted to go to Athletic Club de Bilbao because he is Basque. But Pini Sabi, which is his agent, met with Barcelona, and Barcelona made a higher offer. And now Dani Rodriguez seems to be more interested in staying. They're still negotiating. We don't know if he's going to stay or not yet, but at least we know that he's not leaving for sure, because it was like he's leaving for sure. Now it's more like we don't know. He might stay, he might leave. So, we've moved a little bit more towards the middle versus being absolutely not. As far as Messinho, Barcelona called up Andre Curie, said, hey, what's going on? We heard Messinho's going to Chelsea. And Andre Curie said, sorry, I'm not going to help you. I helped you with Vitor Roque. Look what happened. So if you want Messinho, pick up the phone, call him directly. Most likely he will want to come to your club, but you have to make a move. Barcelona doesn't seem to have made a move yet. I don't think if they will, because Messinho is not a priority. He never was. He was a very interesting player that Barcelona were tracking. But, Messinho plays as a right winger. We have Lamine Yamal there. He also plays as an attacking midfielder. We have plenty of attacking midfielders. It doesn't make sense to pay 60 million or 50 million, however much he costs, on positions that we have covered. So he's not really a priority. Now you might say, well, what about for the left wing? For the left wing is Nico Williams. That's the chosen one for the left wing. So on the right wing, we have Lamine. On the left, they've chosen Nico. There's really no space for him. So it doesn't. If we were in a much better financial situation where our finances are totally fine, sure, sign a player who's going to be a surplus. But right now, it doesn't make sense to try to reinforce positions that are already covered. The priority right now to spend the very little money that we have on a pivot because we don't have any, and on the left winger because we don't have any. It doesn't make sense to spend whatever little money we have on positions where we already have plenty of players. Well, maybe not the right wing because we just have Lamine, but we technically also have Ferran and Rafinha, who both suck, but we still have them, right? Versus left wing, we don't have anyone, like not a single left winger. Let's see, one more, and then we will do the last bit of news. Some random mofo says, what do you want to happen, Mo? Because Flick is better than Xabi right now for the present. He will improve us immediately more than Xabi, but if Xabi stays, Pep Guardiola. Okay, I've seen this comment a lot, so I have to make it very, very clear. Pep Guardiola is not coming back. I think it's very important that everybody drills that in their head. Pep is not coming back. He's made it very abundantly clear that he will never come back to Barca as a coach. If he comes back, it's going to be in some other kind of form, position, etc. But the sooner you come to the realization that Pep is not coming back, I think the happier you're going to be, because that way you're not going to get disappointed down the road when he doesn't come back. Because why? Pep is not coming back. So I think it's very, very important to make that clear and for everybody to realize it, so they are not waiting for someone who's never coming back. Anyways, let's talk about Hansi Flick, because the German coach will continue to wait for Barcelona and will make a push to join Barcelona once again, despite being left hanging. I don't know why couldn't think of the word. After the whole Sushi Pact fiasco, where Laporta made the dumbest mistake, which was to allow Xavi to continue, only to turn around and decide to sack him a few weeks later. But anyways, we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Hansi Flick, because Hansi Flick has rejected yet another club because he still wants to come to Barcelona. Now, the first club that Hansi Flick had rejected was Bayern Munich, who were looking to hire him after they had decided to part ways with Thomas Tuchel. He said no because he wanted to come to Barcelona. Of course, Laporta decided to keep Xavi. And then Hansi Flick started looking at the Premier League, since it looked like he wasn't becoming to Barcelona. And it's found out that most recently, I don't know if it's today or yesterday or these past few days, Chelsea picked up the phone and called Hansi Flick, because Chelsea have decided to fire their 20th coach in 2 months because Chelsea is an absolute mess. Remember, if you ever think Barcelona is a mess and you're sad, just think about Chelsea, and you're going to feel much better because compared to Chelsea, things are golden. Compared to Chelsea, Barcelona just won a sextuple, and Barcelona is the richest club in the world, and Barcelona just signed Mbappe and Haaland compared to the mess that's going on in Chelsea. But Chelsea just parted ways with, I think it's Pochettino. I can't even keep track. They've had like 50 coaches in 2 weeks, but they just parted ways with their last coach. They picked up the phone, they called Hansi, and Hansi said, sorry, Chelsea, I'm not interested in your mess. I'm interested in another mess, which is called FC Barcelona, because he still wants to come to the club. And that's crazy because Hansi Flick is still hell-bent on coming to Barca, even though Barca left him hanging, and even though he could be risking staying jobless because Bayern called, he said no. Chelsea called, he said no. He wants to wait for Barca. He wants to see what's going to happen with Xabi, and he doesn't even know for sure whether Barcelona are going to even end up sacking Xabi, and even if they do, he doesn't even know for sure that Barcelona would want to go with him and not maybe, hire Rafa Marquez or Thomas Tuchel or Mota or someone else. But Hansi doesn't care. He doesn't care about the risk. He doesn't care about anything. All he cares about is that he wants to come to Barcelona. And of course, we already knew that from before because Hansi was learning Spanish. He had hired real estate agents to look for homes in Barcelona. He was watching first team tape to analyze the team. He was analyzing the academy to see what youngsters he can depend on. He had flown to England to meet with Pep Guardiola and discuss tactics. He was willing to accept all Barcelona's demands, low salary, depending on La Masia only, no signings, no money. He was fine with all of that. We knew that. But then, of course, the whole Xabi thing happened where Barcelona decided to keep him. And then the question was, is Flick going to still want us since we left him hanging? And it seems that the answer is still yes, because he has actually communicated to his agent, Pini Sahabi, to still not do anything, to hold off on anything, because he still wants to wait to see what's going to happen with Xabi Hernandez and whether Barcelona are going to approach him, because, again, he wants to come to the club. He wants to coach Barcelona. He is willing to wait until the final day. He doesn't care about the risks of waiting. All he cares about is coming to Barca, which, of course, he was the closest one to almost come. I know some sources were reporting that if Xabi got left at the end of the season, it was going to be Rafa Marquez. I told you back then, and I'll tell you again, that was a lie. Laporta clearly stated to his board of directors on the day of the sushi pact, because Laporta met with his board earlier that day, and he told them, if Xabi leaves, the next coach will be Hansi, and his assistant will be Dominic Torrent, which was Pep Guardiola's assistant. He made it very, very clear. Of course, later at night, he met with Xabi at his house. Xabi convinced him to stay. Laporta allowed him to stay, so Hansi Flick did not come. But Hansi Flick was the closest coach to almost become Barcelona next manager. But of course, Laporta decided to stick his foot in his mouth and allow Xabi to stay, only to turn around and decide to sack him. So that's the news. Hansi Flick is coming. Now, there were reports earlier in the day that said that Bojan and Deco had traveled to London to sit down with Hansi and negotiate. Several hours later, those reports were denied. They were said that meeting never happened. Of course, we don't know. It could have happened, but then once it was leaked, the club maybe decided to just deny it, because after all, Xabi is still the coach, and they probably, out of respect, they don't want to, look like they're meeting with other coaches while he is still the coach. Or maybe it didn't happen. We don't know. All we know is that reports came out saying Bojan and Deco had flown to meet him. Several hours later, those reports were denied. We don't know why. We don't know if it really happened or if it really was a lie. All we know is for sure that Flick still wants to come to Barca. All right, let's go back to the comment section. Wedon says, Mo, I told you, brother, Xabi is not Barca level. Now they see. Rather give him the money rather than keeping him as coach. He needs to go back to Qatar where he belongs. I agree with you, my friend. He's not Barca level. Been saying that for a few months now. People think I'm a hater because, again, if you disagree with someone these days, they just have a meltdown. Their brain just completely gets overloaded, shuts down. And instead of arguing with you based on the merits of something, you're a hater. That's it. Because they don't have the mental or emotional capability of engaging in educated argument. And Hart, my man Hart, says, hi Mo, do you have the news for transfer of Williams? How sure we are that we can sign him this summer? Not sure at all. Barcelona want to sign him. He's the chosen one for the left wing. Nico wants to come, but Barcelona would have to pay his release clause, which is worth 50 million. If Barcelona can make some important sales this summer, like Rafinha, maybe Ferran, I don't know, other Frankie de Jong, then yes, Barcelona would be able to sign him. If not, we would have to wait. By the way, speaking of, Hart, I'm going to be posting the video, my vlog of my visit to the Barcelona Museum, the newly renovated Barcelona Museum. And my man Hart here, he did all the editing on the video. It came out absolutely amazing. I can't wait to upload it. If you guys have any editing needs, hit up my man Hart. He's the guy who actually did the intro, did it completely out of scratch. I had no suggestion for him. I had nothing. I just said, make me an intro. And he made it all from scratch, all his idea, all his creation. So if you have any editing needs, hit up my man Hart Wemo. He's absolutely amazing. And I highly, highly recommend him. Java the Hut says, do you think Xavi Laporta is creating all this drama to get Xavi to quit so he doesn't have to compensate his staff? Okay, I understand your question now. I don't think so. I don't think so because I don't think Xavi's going to quit. I think Xavi now has Laporta by the balls because Laporta allowed him to. Xavi had resigned. He was leaving at the end of the season. He was going to leave for free. Laporta allows him to stay. Now, why would Xavi quit? He has all the bargaining chips in his hand, right? He has Laporta by the balls because Laporta took his pants off, bent over, and told him, grab my balls. That's exactly what Laporta did when he allowed Xavi to stay. And now, instead of leaving, he has to fire him. And instead of leaving for free, now he has to pay him. So I don't see Xavi resigning because why would you? If you had all the power, all the bargaining chips, why would you give him up? All right, David says, professionalism. Klopp left on Sunday. Liverpool appointed a coach on Monday. No drama. Well, that would be nice, wouldn't it? That would be very nice. But unfortunately, it seems like we like the drama as a club. So, and Falana, his first live stream all the way from Nigeria. All right, my friend. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you join us more often. And Hamad from Liberia, 11 p.m. Thank you, my friend, for staying up late and watching this. I hope to see you more often in these live streams. And Trickshot says, just so you know, we are now not alone in the circus. Chelsea just joined us in the circus. Is another joke and embarrassment. Actually, Chelsea's been there way before us. It's the opposite. We just joined them because Chelsea's been a hot mess for a very long time. At least we were before this whole Xavi fiasco. At least we were just broke. We were just dealing with the financial situation. We were slowly getting out of it, but we were still a serious club. Now with the Vitor Roque situation, with the Xavi is quitting, but he's not quitting, but he's staying, but he's not staying, but he's getting fired, but he's not getting fired. That's when the whole thing turned into a circus. But Chelsea has been there way. I mean, Chelsea built the circus, and we're just guests. All right, let's see. And Klaus, my man Klaus, he says, I would choose Flick over Xavi. At this point, I would choose my dog. Not to compare Xavi to a dog, but I think my dog has a better understanding of football or of how to run a team because he does watch football, by the way. No, I'm just kidding, but my dog doesn't really watch TV except when I have Barcelona matches on. Like he literally looks up and just stares at the TV. It's most likely the ball that gets his attention, but he's a Barca fan and he does watch the matches. Klaus says if Flick is that passionate about Barca, I would say to give him a chance. I mean, it's definitely something to consider. The fact that he is willing to wait for us to do all this to come here. Well, anyways. Curran says, what do you think about the Europa finals today? All three goals were similar. I didn't watch it. I was working. I've had a lot of work. and I only saw the score. That was 3-0, but I mean, I didn't watch it, so I can't opine. And Anthony says, I heard the Bayern fans saying Flick would fit nice at Barca. What do you think? I heard he needs a destroyer like Onana, though. I mean, Flick does kind of play similar style to Barca, you know, possession-based, fast transitions, high press, except Flick likes to play a football that's a lot more high intensity, which hasn't usually been Barcelona's forte. But all the other aspects of his philosophy is very much similar to Barca, but you have to add the intensity, which is something that the team will have to work on. But guess what? We have a lot of youngsters that we could train to become high-intensity players. We'll see whether the older players will be able to keep up. You know, players like Gundo, players like Lewandowski, even though usually your center forward doesn't need to be as high intensity, because usually in high-intensity football, yes, you want everybody to come back and press, but usually the center forward is the only player that stays in position. So maybe Lewandowski would be able to keep up more. Of course, Lewandowski has played under Flick, and he won a sextuple under Flick, but that was 4 years ago. And 4 years in football is a long time as far as your fitness and your stamina. But given that he's a center forward, and center forwards are not expected to press as much because you have to stay high up, being ready for the ball, maybe Lewandowski would be able to keep up. Mirdu says, whether Flick comes in or not, I want Laporta and his administration to be kicked out of the club as soon as possible. The way they are treating Xavi right now, they will treat Flick in the same manner. I mean, look, if you just want the whole board to be kicked out because you don't like how they're treating Xavi, then that's a big problem, which is Victor Font talked about, where Victor Font doesn't believe that votes of no confidence or motion censure should be legal unless for something illegal, because we can't just keep kicking out presidents because we don't like them or we don't like something they did. Otherwise, you're only hurting the club because there's no stability. You're constantly changing presidents and board of directors, and the club is only gonna stay in this downward spiral where things just keep getting worse and worse and worse just because, oh, I don't agree with this, so kick them out. This is a club, one of the biggest clubs. This is a multinational organization. This is not your mom and pop shop where you could just be like, oh, I don't like this employee, fire him and bring someone else. But anyways. And Rex says, stop repeating the same crap over and over again, make your point and move on. My friend, it's pretty simple. If you don't like what I have to say, don't watch. It's that easy. But don't come here and tell me what I have to say. Imagine being so, what's the word that I'm looking for here? A diplomatic word. Imagine being so entitled that you think you can go to someone else's channel and tell them what they need to say on their own channel. If you don't like what I have to say, don't watch. Simple as that. If you have a different narrative that you want to talk about, start your own channel. That's simple. But don't come over here telling me what I need to do. And yeah, simple as that. And my man Klaus says, did Flick have a destroyer at Bayern, double pivot of Thiago and Kimmich? Yeah, I don't think if a destroyer really is something that Flick would need. Because he really didn't at Bayern. He had, like you said, a double pivot of Thiago and Kimmich. So, anyways. The Matrix says, I think that as long as Laporta keep getting our finances better, we should keep him, then judge him when he has money to spend. So the thing is with Laporta, he is doing a good job as far as financial recovery. There's no denying that. My only problem is the lack of professionalism that's been going on at the club. You know, this whole circle of friends, this whole, just ruling on a whim. Like today I feel good, so I decide on this, but tomorrow I feel bad or I'm in a bad mood, so I reverse my decision. That's what I don't like about Laporta. And I think Laporta, the only reason he kept Xavi was because Xavi was his friend, which, again, it's a big, big problem because there's a lack of professionalism in the club. And the club needs to be professionalized more, needs to be ran like a corporation, even though it's not, even though it's a club owned by its members. It needs to be run like a corporation where there are defined roles and where those roles are filled by professionals who are qualified to run those roles, rather than just have a bunch of my friends and we all just, nobody knows what their job is. We kind of just wing it and we just, rule however we want. That's my problem with Laporta. But besides that, financially speaking, he's done an amazing job of saving the club financially. But anyways, last comment and then we will end this live stream. Ross says, Mo, I'm telling you to say Vizca Barca. Also like the video culés. What do you think about Pochettino? Pochettino for Barca? I don't think he's really a Barcelona kind of coach, or at least a coach that can implement the Barcelona, excuse me, the Barcelona philosophy. But that's not to say that he's a bad coach. He's just not a good fit. Anyways, that is all, my friends. Thank you for tuning in, for your comments, your likes, your subscriptions. You guys are absolutely amazing. I will be uploading one more news video a little bit later. There's still more news. It's going to be more about transfer market news. This was more about coaches and economy and blah, blah, blah. More like the club as an institution. But I have a little bit more news about as far as players. So stay tuned for that channel. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video. And as always, Vizca Barca.